Hello and welcome. My name is Michael Fleming. I'm one of the partners with the Care Alliance and specifically the Alabama Care Alliance in partnership with the Intercultural Collaborative Partnership inside of Birmingham, currently located in Birmingham, Alabama. This is a video about introducing the Intercultural Collaborative and the initiative called the Care Alliance. And so the only way to kind of just take you through it is to take you through it. So we're going to walk you through what is the Care Alliance and how it's actually going to be implemented into Birmingham, specifically in the Inslee, Alabama, Birmingham area. And so the Care Alliance, it says it in its name. It's how do you get people of a like-minded spirit to collaborate together to contribute to the growth and development of a particular community. And so the goal is that we are doing what we call the Uberizing of care. In other words, all the value is already there. Who knew your car could be a taxi, right? And Uber built the platform, and now you just turn on a switch and turn on an app, and all of a sudden your car is a taxi, right? So could we do the same thing for people who have care and genuine concern for communities? Absolutely. And so we're here. The Care Alliance is that platform on the back end. The Intercultural Collaborative is a group of experts and professionals and concerned people who want to see every community in the country, in the world, actually be grow and be flourishing and developing. And so there's a wonderful group of people that are involved in that, and I'll give you some background information on that as well. But this particular logo, this particular symbol, the Care Alliance symbol itself, it's going to be, the goal is to make it universal, where if you see that sign and that logo, there's a place that's willing to help. And this is not just for individual level too. This is on the business level, economic development, community development, looking at government services, and just how does all the infrastructures and institutions of a community collaborate and work together. That is the Care Alliance. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. And so model is set up for Alabama, but the Intercultural Collaborative is going to have an impact globally and obviously throughout the United States and online. And so we'll go through that as well. So the Intercultural Collaborative, real quick, just a little bit about it. I mean, it's a pretty powerful concept and idea or thought, and a group of people who look to be solution oriented. And so with Bettina Boyd Giles as the leader, Kathy Scarva as the one of the core directors and strategists inside of it, and then it's just a wonderful group of people that's inside of that are kind of putting the components together. And so if you get a chance, go out to Intercultural Collaborative. We'll have a full website and all the things. We're updating, orientating the website, so we'll get more information out on that as well. But definitely worth exploring. But for now, I'm going to cover some of the pieces of within the Care Alliance. Obviously, for the entire state of Alabama, but it's being launched in Birmingham. And so the way the system is set up, specifically one of the communities in Birmingham is called Inslee, the Inslee area of Alabama. And so we're going to look at what are the needs in that community and address those needs, in a very direct way. And so you'll be able to see what our goals and intentions are. There's some concepts that I'm going to mention that are not in the PowerPoint, but there's a very strong piece that is called Beyond Startup that's going to look at the business community as a whole. And then collectively, we're going to address literally street by street, block by block, every household, every citizen. It seems like a very enormous kind of concept or idea to do, but it's very doable, very practical. And you'll see in this presentation that there's a set of very strategic, methodical approaches that are going to be looked at with this. So the Inslee Alabama Care Alliance is structured this way. Obviously, we're going to look at the Inslee community collectively together, and then the whole goal is how do we renew Inslee? How do we get that community to get to eclipse its historical presence and renew Inslee and bring it to a state where it's one of the shining beacons in the whole entire state of Alabama. So here's what that looks like. This is a quick map of just what the Inslee area looks like, and I mean it's just more, and this is just around the business district itself. So obviously going this direction is kind of northeast. And I don't have a chance to show it on here, but there's Highway 78, Highway 22, and then there's 65 on this side, Highway 20 on this side. So there's a core infrastructure and an accessible city that's available to Memphis. But this is the downtown business district that I'm showing here, and then obviously some of the residential areas and everything that's around it. There's a lot of old industry, railroad tracks, and everything there. So in other words, this city has the opportunity to really flourish in that it has a hub infrastructure kind of format to it. It's not that far from downtown Birmingham area, and then yet has a aging population community, but a aging population community. And so the goal is that, you know, how do you kind of revive and restore and renew and assist Inslee in eclipsing its past glory. And so what we did is we took, I like showing this screen because before I go into some of the direct strategies, these are some of the primary components in every community that you got to account for, that you got to look at. So, I mean, you know, who are the citizens and the communities and everybody that's the customers and the people that we're trying to serve inside of this. And then, you know, what are the pieces that breaks down the needs in that particular community? How does all these interlocking and working pieces kind of work together? And so, and you know, it's just, we've got to account for all the pieces, all the moving pieces. But like I said, again, the leadership team of Intercultural Collaborative is able to kind of compile all those pieces together and bring the right people to the table. So we'll go into that as well too. So here, what you do is, the need is to take Inslee and divide Inslee into 4 quadrants, and then do the overall needs assessment that is there. And so this is just a generic list for what we're looking at in each one of the quadrants. Obviously, the more residential area and what they call a low to moderate income area is in this primary second quadrant here, and then the affluent community going south actually gets a little bit more influence. The business district is more stable. There's an element of that going this direction, going kind of southeast a little bit. Then you head back toward Birmingham. So you kind of get that there's a need, you know, quadrant by quadrant is not one big blanket that we're able to throw over what the needs are in Inslee. And then the whole idea is that if we can regenerate the business district, then that will bring economic development to the community, which there would allow jobs and generate more interest in people coming and being part of the Inslee community as a whole. So in doing research on every community, you can break that community down by a zip code and then the internal neighborhoods of that community. And so in the particular zip codes in Inslee, and just like with any kind of metropolitan area, we found that there are over 1,500 still existing businesses, entities, or organizations that are in that community, right? But individually, they all kind of do their own separate function. You know, you may have convenience stores and retail stores and little strip malls and everything here. And then, of course, there's churches of all kinds that are there. And then you got to count for the, you know, youth and children and families. And then there's right now a supermarket desert in the particular areas that we're looking at of Inslee. And then, of course, you know, the hotels are struggling as they're trying to figure out how to get more people back into that area. And so we'll look at some of the solutions for that. And then there's nonprofit organizations that are being proactive, that are trying to figure out ways to making that difference. And the Intercultural Collaborative, the idea of the collaborative is to bring all that expertise together into a hub so that everyone can kind of provide services to each other and to the collective community. And there's still office buildings and different things like that that are not as popular, but the goal is to how do you collaborate and get all of them to work in the same thing. This is where that Uberizing of care takes place. Right now, they're independent. This brand, this logo, this idea, this thought and strategy is the goal is to take all those individual organizations that are all standing alone now and have them work through a collaborative. And so this is where the Care Alliance actually bridges them all together. So that logo, just the logo by itself, would identify who's in the Care Alliance. And then there's different ways that they can participate in the Care Alliance. It's not obviously as simple as just having a marketing logo and just everybody being able to be identified, but it should speak to the community as a whole, that you want to have impact in that particular community, that individual organization is now making its value and services available to the direct community and the community abroad. And so the Care Alliance is set up to be a win-win-win. The organizations, the businesses win, the government wins, the community wins, and then the citizens win. And so the reason why is a more coordinated community. If it's all coordinated, then everybody's more synchronized, then everyone should be able to contribute and everyone should be able to benefit. So let's look at what that role is and how these collective partners and entities and organizations and individuals can participate. Well, we have 3 pathways, what we call the healthy, wealthy, and wise. And this is the the tactical part of being able to figure out how do you combine these communities and how do you take advantage of the resources that are already in the community. Well, in every community, there's a trove of health experts, health field workers, and just people who are gurus at what they do in the health field. And the greatest example of that is in most of the churches in every community. If you go to that church and ask, all the members to raise their hands that work in the health industry, I'm inclined to say you're probably going to have about 55%. You'll be surprised where, nurses, doctors, just medical professionals, all type dentists and everything, they regularly attend church. And so in all the churches I've ever dealt with across the country and around the world, that you have a lot of health professionals who are solid members in most churches. And then there's the wealth professionals, the ones that deal with finance, banking, real estate, anything where it's more of the commerce kind of driven background and expertise. You have a whole collection of them. They probably represent another 25% just by 25% by itself. And then you're going to have a good list of probably additional 20% that are going to, 15% or so that are going to come out of the education field, both the K through 12, collegiate, training, all those different components. So what we're saying is those people already exist. So these brands, these logos are tags to identify what that person's value or skill set on an individual level, but organizations will be able to do it as well. So these will be very prevalent logos and brands throughout the entire city. And so, and if you see these logos both on buildings, materials, billboards, or even on someone's vehicle, then it identifies where they are participating in the Care Alliance as a whole. And the Intercultural Collaborative has very relationship heavy, very relationship driven. And so the goal is that if there's a particular community that doesn't have those resources, then Intercultural Collaborative will mobilize those particular people and then bring them in. And so we'll kind of put all those components together as well. And so here, this is one of the first kind of thoughts about how to engage the community, is to have that community have kiosks and stands all throughout the community. And inside these kiosks and stands, so if you saw the Renew Inslee logo, you can go inside that establishment and that entity, that group, and then inside there will be some type of information stand. And so this would have the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise information inside of it. And so that, they work. One thing about the Intercultural Collaborative and the Inslee Care Alliance is built to be sustainable. In other words, it's not, it will thrive and it works off of standard kind of business principles of how to be sustainable. And in other words, these are marketing stands. Nonprofits and churches and organizations that are doing direct engagement, they will be allowed to put their materials in here for free. But for-profit companies, there'll be a small charge per page to put their information and materials in these stands. So imagine if we've got 1,000 organizations participating, you now have 1,000 locations to advertise and connect with the community as a whole, with your business or your organization or your nonprofit or your church. And so the idea is that now everyone's getting access to services immediately where they are, and we're meeting people at their point of need, not just where they are. And so the goal is to go beyond people's, to go inside of people's convenience zone and try to go into their comfort zone so that everything's readily available. So that's one of the things about the Care Alliance, is lined up so that it's very community, neighborhood, block by block specific. You shouldn't have to drive all over town to find the services that you need. There should be a different Care Alliance in that other part of town if that's necessary. So here within, and by the way too, we're in the process of looking at what the app is going to look like to be developed for this. There are already apps and software programs associated with the Care Alliance, but we're going to have very specific ones for each individual. So the additional kiosks and stands, if you don't want to put up the large one, then these will be the tabletop, and even the ones that fit on the wall, there'll be information stands. And again, they would have the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise collective information inside of there. So if a person's just new to Inslee, or they've been there for a while and they're struggling, or just trying to find some options and resources, then this is their way of being able to step inside of an establishment and get quick information from everything. So in the goal of the Care Alliance is that we didn't want to stop until we figured out a way to actually have impact household by household, literally all the way down to the coffee table, and we'll explain that too here in a second. And so these are what I'm showing here is that if we go into a particular community and they don't have any programs, strong programs on their own, or just adequate programs, then we come prepackaged with some programs and services, and so we can put those in place until we find the collective community partners that can kind of provide those same services. So this is just a thumbnails and snapshots of some of the programs we already have inside of the Intercultural Collaborative, and specifically for the Care Alliance program and initiative. So Vision Quest is a very unique exercise. We do not want to tell anyone what to do. We want them to tell us how to help. And the Vision Quest is an exercise that you can do in person, takes less than an hour, and we can map out your entire life in less than 1 hour. And so once on one sheet of paper is personal, private, confidential. You don't have to share it with anyone, but it allows us to get an assessment of who you are, where you've been, what you want to do, and then we have software for that too, so it can be digitized into a 1-year life plan. And then for those who are thinking more about how to advance their career or to get their business to the next level, it's not shown on here, but we have the Beyond Startup series, and then we also have the Junior Executive Program. And the Junior Executive Program is the goal is to do that, is to use the power and influence of the Intercultural Collaborative, and then be able to get to the point of helping people advance their careers. Because if they're advancing their careers, then they should be making more money or seeing more opportunities. There are no dead-end jobs because there are no dead-end industries. And so we explore how to go from just being the typical worker to being an executive in an organization. And STAGE is a skills building program for those who are like, I'm not sure what I want to do or what I want to do with my life. STAGE is skills, talents, abilities, gifts, and effort. And so the goal is to really expose people to the needs that are in the world and see how their particular insights and experiences and their sense of self connects to the world around them, and the STAGE does this. And then of course we got to give people resources. So RESET program is resources, education, support, empowerment, and training. And so it's just a huge emphasis again on we've got to implement those things. You got to be about practicing the things that you want to be able to do. And then interestingly, in the United States alone, over 40 million people need their GED. So to always address community needs, you're pretty much always going to need a GED and life skills program. And so that's what the culmination of that is. FAST is our financial literacy programs, and then Amber is the women and girls life coaching program. King is the boys and men's life coaching program. And then we want to encourage every community to have its own care council that will meet either once a month or once a quarter, and then they will share best practices. And see, so the Care Alliance is not an external piece. It is something that works from within the resources and services that are already available in that particular community. People can work both independent and interdependently is what we're encouraging. And so these are our kind of basic programs and services that we offer, but we're going to work through whatever the partners have in their particular community and highlight the community in the kiosks, stands, online, everywhere there's an access point. And so here, obviously, these are more examples of some of the workbooks and things that are already in place. There literally are hundreds of them, and that's just what we have internally. But our partners, as they come on board, and then we'll highlight their programs and services too. And then we'll let the community kind of, evaluate which ones are the most effective, and we'll do everything that we can to cultivate that. And so, inside of here, I had mentioned earlier about we don't want to stop until until we have impact inside of the household and to the point of and literally have an impact on the coffee table and in everyone's home. And so because the Care Alliance should allow each person to say, hey, this thing doesn't stop just at the doors of my house. Is they're trying to make an impact on themselves. And so we created this thing called the Care Box, and the Care Box is intended to be sent out to every household. And the goal is to have some of the same content and materials that are in the kiosks and stands. We're not going to stop there. We want to be able to customize this to what the data tells us the needs are in that particular community, in that particular zip code. And then that's the information that would be inside of the Care Box. But I want to show you an example of some of the things that on how the Care Box actually works. The Care Box is intended to actually tell the story of the Care Alliance and Intercultural Collaborative's efforts to support that particular community. And there's 4 levels. So not only do we have the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise, and we have the Care Council here on the side, but we have 4 levels of support. It's Pinnacle, Triumph, Summit, and Endeavor. And endeavor is probably one of the most critical ones, because what happens in endeavoring is people are endeavoring every day. They're just trying to get through their life. But let's say they find themselves in a crisis, or just whether they put themselves in it, or something out external that lies put them in it. The goal is to mobilize the Care Alliance and address that crisis within a 15 to 30 day time period, to see if we can get that person's life stable. Because if a person stays in a crisis too long, they go into desperation. They just, at that point, they have no problems, either harming themselves or harming someone else. So the goal is to get people out of the endeavor stage, at least to the summit stage, where their life is stable and they're at least living week to week, day to day, week to week, month to month, and they can see an opening and being able to grow and advance their life. But triumph is the most basic goal of development. Triumph, the idea of getting people to the triumph stage is they're like, you know what, I now can do the more disciplined things, go back to school, I can start my own business, I can get some training, I can start saving money, I can maybe look to buy a house, or they want to advance all the levels in their life in some particular way. Pinnacle is exactly that. It's the pinnacle of how we would love to help people advance their lives. And so the idea that you get to the pinnacle, you now have more than just the typical things to get by. You're finding ways to progress all the areas of your life, and hopefully at that point the person realizes that they're more interdependent and willing to contribute back to the entire Care Alliance process. What you can't see on the box is on the back side of the boxes. We actually have samples of these boxes already made. On the back side of the box is a map of that particular area, and has and eventually we'll have dots of all the partners who will be involved in the Care Alliance in that particular community, so you can see where you are on the map and get a general idea of partners and that are in the Care Alliance as a whole. And so here, these are just more samples of what the boxes would look like. As you see, there's the financial box there. And for our banking partners, we came up with some clubs that can have the business innovation group that would also be part of the Beyond Startup series. And really all of these in some way can be. And then there's expressions for the art community, the Savings First for youth, the Profit and Loss group, the Legacy group for seniors and people that are looking towards retirement. And then there's the Community First Club, which would be part of the nonprofit and the philanthropy community as a whole, and the foundations in a particular community and how they can work together. So again, this is just samples of what we've kind of put together on our side of the house, but we are encouraging our partners to contribute their part as well. And here, even beyond the care boxes, at some point, and these actually will be in the care boxes, we call these the coffee table books. And so the goal will be is that we want this to compete against the magazines in your household. And so every one of these tools are intended to encourage you to stay on your path of success and path of growth. And so, and each one of these also in the business community work as marketing tools. And so the Care Alliance, again, will be sustainable in that it have a marketing value and a public relations value, have a program value and a service value, and then offer professional development and organizational development, and then there's software and apps and all those components that run behind this as well. And you can see those in other videos. But the key thing is, and even as an example, this is more examples of the cover books for workshops and different things that will be offered in that particular community. And keep in mind, like the Vision Quest, where we can map out the person's life and all those things. So all that becomes part of a huge life coaching, business coaching, executive coaching kind of series of classes and workshops. And then the rest is just trying to get people exposed. We have a major component of this called edutainment. We want to educate and entertain the entire community. We might as well party with a purpose. And I tell people all the time, have fun but be responsible. That's how do we kind of take care of each other and at the same time celebrate each other. So these again is more samples of what some of the different boxes would look like, and whether it's for a church or a business organization. So even the boxes will be a revenue generator, and how the materials inside work the same as the kiosks. Nonprofits and community-centered organizations can have their materials in it for free, and then the for-profits will put we'll charge them a minimal charge to have materials inside of the box. And so even veterans will be impacted. So again, the entire thing of the Intercultural Collaborative is addressed directly all the needs of a particular community. The Care Alliance is just one initiative, one program that we have inside of the entire series. So again, my name is Michael Fleming. I am I have my home base is in Atlanta, Georgia, but I work throughout Birmingham and Memphis and Nashville, throughout the Southeast. But we're partnering with other organizations around the country and even looking to do some things internationally. So please don't hesitate to contact me or get in touch with my colleagues at Intercultural Collaborative, and that would be Bettina Bird Giles, Kathy Scarborough, and David Deal, and Lorray, Cody Bird, and John. I can't think of John's last name, but John. So, but please don't hesitate to give me a call. My number is area code 678-508-6283, and or you can reach me, or you're better off reaching me by text, or you can reach me by email at michaelafleming@hotmail.com. Absolutely hope all is well and wishing you the best. Take care.